Dear students, I am Dr. Nidhi Sharma, Associate Professor, Zoology, p.g.govt.college, Rajasthan. Students, in continuation of my earlier part 2 of the reproductive system, wherein we had discussed the male reproductive system, I shall discuss the female reproductive system in part 3. Here, as you can see in this diagram, this is the female reproductive system. There are two ovaries, two oviducts or fallopian tubes. Then you can see the uterus. The uterus has been cut open on the other side to show the uterine wall, which has the endometrium lining, then the cervix and the vagina. Here, one of the ovaries has been cut open, wherein you can see the egg follicles developing, and the mature corpus luteum from where the egg has been released. The process of fertilization starts with oogenesis, that is, generation of the ovum or egg. Here, unequal divisions of the cytoplasm takes place. This allows for more nutrition to be available to the egg in case fertilization occurs. As seen in this diagram, you can see the ovary. One part of the ovary has been cut open, and here in the oogonium, the primary germ cell of the embryo differentiates by mitotic division and gives rise to diploid cell. This diploid cell further keeps on continuously going into mitotic division to produce diploid cells. Now, in this stage, this stage is known as the primary oocyte. This is arrested in prophase of meiosis 1 at the present meiosis 1 at birth of a girl child. Now, this is twice n in number. That is, the egg is diploid. Then, after completion of meiosis first and onset of meiosis 2, the cell further divides and forms two cells. The first is the secondary oocyte, which is arrested at metaphase of meiosis second, and the second cell is the first polar body, and this is haploid. As you can see, it's written N, that is haploid chromosomes. Now, this secondary oocytes further through ovulation grows into a full mature ovum, which is ready to be fertilized by the sperm. And a second polar body results in this division of metaphase of meiosis second, and a full functional ovum is formed. Now, female reproductive system has ovaries that produce egg and hormones, uterus that nourishes the fetus, and the lining of the uterus builds up each month. Fallopian tubes are tubes for eggs to travel from ovaries to uterus. The cervix is the opening to uterus. It dilates 10 centimeters, that is 4 inches, for the birth of the baby, and the vagina, which is the birth canal for birthing baby. Now, here you can see in detail the female organs of the female reproductive system. As shown in the diagram, you can see the oviduct, the ovary, the uterus, the urinary bladder just below it, the pubic bone, the urethra. And here, if you look at the clitoris, you can see the shaft, the glana, the prepuce, the labia minora, and the labia majora. And then you can see the vaginal opening, the vagina, the cervix. And here you can see the previous diagram which has already been discussed. Now, it contains ovaries where oogenesis takes place, which has been discussed in the previous slide. Then it contains the oviduct, which is actually the fallopian tube, where fertilization takes place. The uterus, where the embryo grows and develops into a baby. And the vagina, which is the birth canal. Here, again, you can see the diagram in detail. You can see the fallopian tube and the fimbriae or finger-like projections of the fallopian tube near the ovary, which is bluish in color. Then you've got the uterus, which is folded. Then you can also see the urinary bladder, and then the urethra, the vagina, the cervix, and the rectum finally. Now, there are certain hormones that control the female reproductive system. From the hypothalamus, you have a positive hormone which stimulates the hormone is GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, which stimulates the anterior pituitary, which releases the LH and the FSH. FSH for females, follicle stimulating hormone, which acts on the ovary. The ovary then produces on the stimulus of the FSH the estrogen and the progesterone. The progesterone acts on the uterus, as well as the estrogen also acts on the uterus. Now, LH and FSH act on the ovaries and cause them to produce progesterone and estrogen. The female undergoes a menstrual cycle, which is known as the female menstrual cycle. That is, each month a woman's body prepares for the possible fertilization of an egg. There is an ovarian cycle, which is an egg matures and is released into the fallopian tube. Then the uterine cycle, the endometrium lining of the uterus thickens, becomes ready to have a fertilized egg implant, then breaks down if no fertilization occurs. Now, in this diagram, you can see the female menstrual cycle. It is ovulation, release of egg from ovary is triggered by a surge of luteinizing hormone LH. Here, the hypothalamus controls the gonadotropin releasing hormone. This, when inhibited by combination of estrogen and progesterone, then it's a negative feedback mechanism. When it is it's stimulated by high levels of estrogen, and again the negative feedback given to the anterior pituitary is inhibition by low levels of estrogen. The first stage, gonadotropin releasing hormone, acts on the anterior pituitary. And in the second stage, anterior pituitary releases the FSH follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. The Now you can see the levels of pituitary gonadotropins in blood, and this is connected to the second picture wherein the third picture wherein in the C ovarian cycle the levels of the luteinizing hormone shown in black and the follicle stimulating hormone are low, and when follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone stimulate follicles to grow. Here you can see the smallest follicle, the leftmost side, which is growing, and then finally it matures. And you can also connect it with the diagram B with the levels of LH and FSH. And this is the follicular phase. Next, in the ovulation period, when the ovule is released from the follicle, the levels of LH and FSH surge and go high, and this triggers the ovulation process. And in the this is the ovulation process. Now we have the luteal phase. Luteal phase, the you can see by a blue color and a brown color. In the luteal phase also, the hormone level of LH and FSH they come down, and the corpus luteum is formed, and later on it shrinks. The corpus luteum shrinks by degenerating corpus luteum. Here again you have got these first, second, third, fourth diagrams, which you can see from the gonadotropins which are released from anterior pituitary. The diagram shows, the B shows events in ovarian cycle, the C diagram shows the ovarian hormone and the uterine cycle, and the D picture shows uterine bleeding. Now, if we discuss the levels, the estrogen inhibits LH, luteinizing hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone release. You can see the green colored peaks of the hormone, which is luteinizing hormone, and the purple colored is the follicle stimulating hormone. Now, when estrogen inhibits LH and FSH release, you can see the level is very low, the hormone level is very low. It coincides with the oocyte maturation in B and the development of the follicle. And here also you can see the ovarian hormones and uterine cycle. This is the estrogen levels which is going higher as the ovule is maturing, follicle is maturing. This red colored in this figure in C, the red colored estrogen is moving up. And here when the uterine bleeding starts, estrogen levels are high. Bleeding and sloughing off of the endometrium wall takes place, and the estrogen levels are shown, and the progesterone levels are shown in the figure C. Bleeding and sloughing off starts. There is no fertilization in this. The days are from 0 to 10 days, day of uterine cycle in this D, uterine lining. Once again, when we come to the estrogen level, estrogen stimulates LH and FSH release. If we come below, we can see this is the day 15th, when the levels of estrogen luteinizing hormones are very high and the levels of follicle stimulating hormones are low. Here also this coincides with the ovulation. The follicle bursts open to give rise to the ova. Here also you can see the levels of estrogen shown by the red line is high, and the levels of progesterone are about to rise. And here you can see the well developed, on the day 15th you can see the well developed endometrium lining, thickened endometrium lining. Now here in this case you can see estrogen inhibits LH, luteinizing hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone release. Here the levels, again the green line showing the luteinizing hormones are going down, and even the follicle stimulating levels are going down. In this case the corpus luteum is developed, and then the oocyte is given out, and here again you can connect it with the levels of the hormones. The red line is the estrogen, and the progesterone levels increase, shown by the blue line, when corpus luteum develops. And here again, day 20 to 25 of this cycle, the endometrium lining becomes very thick. And in case there is the fertilization occurs, progesterone progesterone levels will rise further. Otherwise, the progesterone levels will decline. Here we can say day one, first day of a woman's period. Hormonal control is complicated. During different times of the cycle, estrogen can either stimulate or inhibit other hormones. Now, in the female menstrual cycle, if fertilization occurs, the embryo secretes human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, which maintains the lining of the uterus. HCG is what is tested for in pregnancy tests. Birth control pills are synthetic progesterone and estrogen and trick the body into thinking that the woman is pregnant. Therefore, no further ovulation will occur. Next part I will discuss in part 4 of the part 5 of the reproductive system. Thank you.